Ah, the good old days. I remember them like they were yesterday, mostly because I have a terrible short-term memory. But the photos, they tell a story. There's one of us at a barbecue, me in my Kiss the Cook apron, Cynthia smiling politely while holding a hockey stick. We were the picture of domestic tranquility. I was a man with a vision, a man who believed in a brighter tomorrow. A tomorrow with fewer of the people I didn't personally know. I wanted change, real, powerful American change. The kind you see in action movies, where the hero blows something up and everything is magically better afterwards. I felt so patriotic, so in charge of my destiny. And Cynthia's destiny too, I suppose. Though she seemed less thrilled. My life was a well-oiled machine. I'd come home from my job managing the seasonal aisle at the hardware store, and Cynthia would be there. Sometimes she'd be baking something with maple syrup, which I found delightfully exotic. It was like living with a friendly foreign exchange student who also did my laundry. Our little suburban castle was impenetrable. We had a welcome mat, a doorbell that played La Cucaracha, and a profound sense of security. I believed in the system. I believed that when politicians promised to shake things up, they meant shaking up other people's things. My things were perfectly fine where they were, thank you very much. I just wanted to see some administrative spring cleaning, if you will.
Frankie, have you read the fine print on this change you're so excited about? My visa renewal is coming up, you know.
Don't you worry your pretty little Canadian head about it, honey. This isn't about you. This is about making America great again.
She'd just stare at him with that look of hers. A look that he now understands was not admiration, but a quiet, simmering rage. A rage that probably tasted like politeness and was stored next to the emergency moose jerky she kept in her purse. But Francisco was too busy being a patriot to notice the warning signs. Looking back, it was a beautiful time, a simpler time. He was a man of conviction, a voter with a purpose. He saw a problem and he voted for the loudest solution. It felt decisive, it felt strong. He envisioned a future where the biggest issue in his life was whether to get the deluxe cable package with the extra sports channels. Cynthia, meanwhile, was probably envisioning a future that involved fewer forms and less scrutiny from men in ill-fitting suits. Their visions, it turns out, were not exactly aligned. But hey, who could have known that voting for massive, sweeping immigration reform would have anything to do with his immigrant wife? It's just not intuitive.
The day I cast my vote was a glorious one. The sun was shining. Birds were singing. I wore my best polo shirt, the one with only a minor mustard stain. I marched into that voting booth like a soldier heading into a righteous battle. I filled in that little bubble with the vigor of a man single-handedly saving his country from something. I wasn't entirely sure what, but I knew it was bad and it needed to be stopped. The word change echoed in my head. It was a beautiful, powerful word. It meant progress. It meant strength. It meant, I assumed, that my property taxes might go down. I was on the front lines of history, a true hero of the people.
Are you absolutely sure about this, Frankie? You do realize that when they say zero tolerance, they don't usually hand out questionnaires to see if you're one of the good ones, right?
Oh, my sweet, naive Cynthia. So unfamiliar with the subtle nuances of American political hyperbole. Sweetheart, they're not talking about you. They're talking about the bad guys. The ones who don't bring delicious maple cookies to the neighborhood potluck.
He actually said that, word for word. I remember contemplating whether fleeing to the nearest Tim Hortons constituted a viable escape plan. It did.
The confidence I felt was immense. I was part of a movement, a silent majority they called us. Though I'm not particularly silent, especially after a few beers. I imagined the new, improved America. It looked a lot like the old America, but with more flags and fewer people cutting me off in traffic. It was a beautiful dream. One I was sure my Canadian wife would eventually appreciate once she saw the benefits. I was still working on the list of benefits, but I was sure they were coming. And so, I did it. I voted for change. I walked out of that booth feeling 10 feet tall. I had done my civic duty. I had made my voice heard. I had, in my own small way, set in motion a series of events that would lead to, this mess. This hilariously ironic, deeply inconvenient catastrophe. But at that moment, I was a champion. A man who had taken a stand. See? That wasn't so hard.
The hard part hasn't happened yet, you absolute donut.
I thought she was insulting my diet. It turns out it was a Canadian term of endearment for a complete and utter moron. The more you know. The letter arrived on a Tuesday. It was beige, which is the color of bad news. It had a very official-looking seal and used words like required, documentation, and final review. I figured it was just some routine paperwork for Cynthia's green card renewal. A formality. We'd go down to the immigration office, flash her charming Canadian smile, maybe offer them some butter tarts, and be on our way. I even wore my lucky socks, the ones with little eagles on them. I was prepared for a bureaucratic adventure. I was not, however, prepared for what actually happened. The place looked less like an office and more like the set of a spy thriller directed by a man who's only ever seen government buildings on TV. The hearing room was cold. The chairs were uncomfortable. The man across the desk from us, Agent Johnson, had a mustache so severe it looked like it could file its own legal briefs. He stared at Cynthia's paperwork with the intensity of a bomb disposal expert. He didn't look like he was in the mood for butter tarts. He flipped through pages making little tisk sounds. So a lot of paperwork, huh? Bet you guys are busy with all this, change.
Silence, then looking at Cynthia. Date of entry, purpose of 2009 visit to Vermont. Did you declare the excess maple syrup?
She's from Canada. They're our hat. She knows all the words to "Oh Canada," both versions.
At this point, Francisco still believed his sparkling personality could solve a federal immigration issue. He was, to put it mildly, incorrect.
Ma'am, due to discrepancies in your application and the current enforcement priorities, your status is under review pending removal proceedings.
Removal? Like removing a stain? Where were they removing her to? A different room? Then it hit me. Oh no, they were talking about deporting my wife, my Canadian, hockey-loving, poutine-making wife. All because of some paperwork and this change I had so enthusiastically voted for. This was not the change I had in mind. Not at all. My life is now a waking nightmare. The house is a mess. There are cold pizza boxes everywhere. My MAGA hat sits askew on my head, a constant mocking reminder of my own hubris. The welcome mat seems sarcastic now. Who am I welcoming? The delivery guy? He's the only person who visits me anymore. I spend my days pacing around the living room, a disheveled man haunted by the ghost of my own terrible decisions. I look in the mirror and see a man who has been through a war of his own making, a war against common sense, and I lost, decisively. I've been on the phone for days. First, I called the White House. I wanted to speak to the man in charge. I figured it was a simple misunderstanding. "Hello?" I said to the intern who answered. "I'd like to report a bug in the new immigration system. It seems to be accidentally targeting nice Canadians. My wife Cynthia is currently in a detention center in El Paso." There was a long pause before she told me to write to my congressman. My congressman, as if he could help. He's probably the one who designed the beige envelopes. I demanded to know if there was a return policy, a vote refund. Can I get a credit? Maybe exchange my vote for one that doesn't deport my spouse?
He called me from the detention center's phone. He wasn't asking how I was. He was asking if I remembered where he put the warranty for his vote. He genuinely believes it came with a warranty.
The sheer injustice of it all is what gets me. I voted for change, not change. This is a classic bait and switch. It's like ordering a cheeseburger and getting a salad. A sad, wilted salad that then takes your wife to Texas. I am a victim here, a consumer who has been sold a faulty product. Where is the customer service hotline for democracy? I want to speak to a manager. I have a complaint. A very, very loud complaint. My pleas for help have been met with a deafening silence. My friends pat me on the back and say things like, "Wow, Frankie, that's rough." Yes, it is rough. My life has been turned upside down. The seasonal aisle at the hardware store has lost its magic. I can't even look at a snow shovel without thinking of Canada and breaking down. I am a man adrift in a sea of consequences. All I wanted was to make America great again. I didn't know that would involve making my own life a complete and total disaster. There should be a warning label on the ballot box. May cause unforeseen domestic complications. Vote responsibly. The official response finally came. It wasn't a phone call or a personalized letter. It was a form letter. a single soulless piece of paper that arrived in another one of those dreadful beige envelopes. It thanked me for my civic engagement and referred to Cynthia's case not by her name, but by a long series of numbers and letters. It was the kind of letter you get when a company updates its privacy policy. It was cold, impersonal, and utterly devoid of sympathy. It basically said, "Thank you for your input. The system is working as designed. Have a nice day."
Thank you for your input. The system is working as designed. Have a nice day.
As designed, this chaotic, wife-deporting, life-ruining mess it was then that a small, flickering candle of understanding lit up in the vast, empty cavern of my brain. Maybe, just maybe, when they said they were going to enforce the laws without exception, they actually meant it. Maybe the word all included people I knew. It was a shocking revelation. A true plot twist. I had assumed there was an unwritten clause, a footnote somewhere that said, "Does not apply to the spouses of enthusiastic voters." Apparently, I had assumed incorrectly. This whole actions have consequences thing is a real drag.
Francisco was on the verge of a breakthrough. He was so close to understanding the fundamental nature of cause and effect. So close.
So here I am, a changed man. Not in the way I wanted, but changed nonetheless. I've learned a valuable lesson. Be careful what you wish for, especially when you're wishing for something as vague and ominous as change. And if you're going to vote for a massive overhaul of the immigration system, it might be a good idea to first check the immigration status of the person who sleeps next to you. It's a rookie mistake, I admit, but one I will never make again, probably. So, what now? I'm trying to get a lawyer. I'm trying to figure out how to send maple syrup to El Paso. And I'm trying to understand how my perfectly simple, patriotic plan went so horribly, hilariously wrong. I guess politics is more complicated than it looks. It's not just about slogans and hats. It's about real people. People like my wife. My illegal Canadian alien wife, as the government so charmingly puts it. I still think I deserve a refund for my vote. But until then, I guess I'll just have to deal with the change I got, and maybe learn how to do my own laundry.